IKEA. I'm back. I'm filming with a selfie camera. I am coming out of my summer depression and I'm ready to go. We're going to be doing something a little bit differently. Obviously, this is different because I'm in my car. I'm staying with my in-laws right now. They're very graciously letting us hang out with them until we move into our own place. And this is a space in which I feel comfortable to talk about ridiculous things. And boy, howdy, is my thing today ridiculous. I'm taking a slightly different approach because this is not about Taylor Swift. Shocker. Also, shout out my Lightning McQueen shirt. I'm going to be talking about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, which, just coming out of the gate, the worst book I've read in a long time, if at all. And truthfully, I have a pretty high standard of literature. I'm like a little bit snobby, but then also I'll read literally anything. But my friend Audrey she shared something once that was like, there are a few different things within like reading and books and literature that make something like good and make something not. Oh, also, this is like my makeup look. I'm not ailing. That make a book good. And for some people it's world building, for some people it's characterization, and for some people it's writing. And there might be like another category in there, but those are the three that I remember and the three that like matter to me. And some people will sacrifice writing for world building, and some people will sacrifice world building for characters. I'm typically a character driven person, but pretty solidly, if I don't like the writing style or the writing style is not up to my snuff, whatever, I don't care for it. And that is kind of the case here. But the thing with Fourth Wing is that it's enough, you know? It's enough of a romance, it's enough of a fantasy, it's enough of an adventure that it's fine. It's just not excellent. I have changed a lot as a reader. I don't know whether since I got married or just in the last like couple years, maybe since college when I was reading a lot of like classic literature, like not even if it's classic literature, but like critically acclaimed literature. Even if it's not like a classic, it's critically acclaimed, or at least enough for an English department at a high ranking university to deem teachable to its English students. And so I think that probably changed a lot of how I read too. Like I read very academically. I have a hard time reading for fun. I've noticed I have a hard time like thinking ahead. I share a lot of books with Audrey, and she's so good. She's so good at like just figuring out what's going to come next, or like her predictions, or she's like so on it with her like analyses of characters. And I'm so stuck in like, I don't particularly care for the syntax of this book. That my predictions aren't as accurate, or they are just totally misguided because I'm very focused on like what I'm reading immediately. I don't know. I've changed a lot as a reader. Also, since being in college, one of the first series that I read, like new, I read some like for fun in college, or I would reread books that I read before. But one of the first series after college that I read that was brand new to me was Throne of Glass. And I'm kind of rereading it right now. I'm on the second book. I just discovered audiobooks, and so I listened to the first one on an audiobook. Which pin in that, it changed everything for me. Throne of Glass was such a transitive experience in terms of something that was like fun, and you know, it wasn't like James Joyce or Reconstruction English literature, but it was amazing. It was so well written. I felt so connected to the characters. I felt so involved in the world and invested in everyone's well-being. I wept tons and tons of times, and that was the first experience that I'd had with a series that like completely captivated me since being in college, since being in high school and reading, you know, The Selection and Caraval and all the like young adult cutesy novels. The Throne of Glass really, really changed me. Additionally, I read ACOTAR. I read ACOTAR before Throne of Glass, which I didn't quite have the same feelings about. I was a lot more critical of ACOTAR, even though I did truly, truly love it. And I read Crescent City too. I haven't read the third one yet, but I've read the first two. And so, having read those, coming out of college, I feel like a lot of the way that I read books and process, the literature, not like literature, but just like as a medium, literature has changed. As such, I've kind of created this scale in my mind based around Sarah J. Maas's Massverse, right? Generally speaking, as a preface to my Fourth Wing video, because I feel like Fourth Wing and books like unto it came after the Sarah J. Maas success. They were published after, but they were published after they got big. Obviously, if you don't know, Fourth Wing is about dragons, and they have Wyvern in him. They have Wyvern. Similar themes. Um, the main male character wields shadows, just like Rhysand in ACOTAR. Um, he's dark and he's brooding, whatever. So it's like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. I know I'm just reading something that's trying to capitalize on another series popularity. Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, they're the trendsetters, so everything kind of falls after. As such, I feel like the Sarah J. Maas works are like kind of an appropriate scale for something like this. That scale being Throne of Glass, amazing, awesome literature, life changing, thought provoking, stayed with me for forever. There's ACOTAR, fun, really solid characters, cool world building, more of a pleasure read than anything that like fundamentally changed me as a reader. And then there's Crescent City, that is like solid, but just enough. Solid because Sarah J. Maas is a good writer, but doesn't quite have the same individual standalone prowess. If that was Sarah J. Maas's first series, she would not have the acclaim today that she does because of Throne of Glass. So I think that Iron Wing kind of falls between ACOTAR and Crescent City, leaning more towards Crescent City. Because like I said, it's just enough. Just enough of a romantasy, just enough of an action book, just enough skill as a writer to be passable as something, but not enough to be critical. This is something that the CW would pick up. One of my biggest qualms and critiques of it is the pacing of relationships or lack thereof. Something that I felt was super lacking in this was my connection to the characters. And as I said, that's something that I really gravitate towards when I'm reading. First and foremost, it felt so much like Divergent, and Rhiannon was definitely the Christina to Violet's Beatrice or Triss. But I knew Christina so much better than I know Rhiannon. Like I know she's a twin sister. I couldn't tell anything else about her. I could tell you facts, but I couldn't describe her character, which is kind of the same for everyone. Xaden maybe is the most fleshed out, but only because I know other characters like him. One particular example in the book that I can point out that I think would be a perfect place to give some world exposition, give some character exposition, forge bonds between the characters is when their company or squad or whatever is in Montserrat, and they meet up with Mira again, and Rhiannon's like, oh my gosh, my family's like an hour's walk away, let's sneak out and go find them. Then Violet and Rhiannon run into Mira, and she's like, you can't sneak out. And then Mira's like, I guess I'll just watch over you. And then all of a sudden they've been at Mira's for like 3 hours, and then they leave. Or they've been at Rhiannon's for 3 hours and then they leave. Even if you included 10 minutes of the dragon flight over there, you still could have used that time to have a conversation between Mira and Rhiannon where Rhiannon tells a little bit more about where she's from, which gives us, geography and culture, and also like someone to be attached to. You could have Mira asking Rhiannon about um, being a first year and all these, things about the training, and her kind of downplaying her abilities. And then Violet's like, "Oh yeah, but you should see her do this," and that builds their connection as friends. That shows that they like care for each other and are aware of each other's successes and whatever. Nope. Then we're just gonna have this little scene where she's holding a baby by a fire and there's a goblet of wine, and then we fast forward 3 days. Then we spend like okay. Also, this was the second audiobook I've ever listened to, but the first audiobook that I had not previously read the text for. I did not like the voice of this audiobook. I felt like I just didn't, because reading or hearing the Throne of Glass audiobook, I noticed, first of all, Elizabeth Evans does a great job narrating, but she does a great job giving different voices to different characters and characterizing them according to, and the voices kind of characterize and form the characteristics of the characters. And I noticed that, however I read Dorian, this narrator was reading Dorian differently. But because this narrator kind of had the same voice for everyone, and it wasn't my voice or maybe how I would have read some of the lines, it like created them differently in my brain, and I don't think I connected to that as well either. So that is like a variable that, maybe if I read it straight from like a physical copy, it would be different. I'm reading the second one, but it is a digital copy, so it's a little bit different. So that was just like a unique experience that I didn't like really know to account for. As such, I was just kind of sick of Violet and Zayden the whole time. There was so much, "You can't do this. I have to protect you." And her being like, "You don't have to. I can do it. I'm a big girl, but oh, my knees hurt so bad." And I'm like, I don't know what. There's nothing. None of these conversations are productive. None of the fights that she has with Dane, none of the conversations where she's trying to get into like understand Zayden better, none of it's productive. When Zayden and I can never remember her name. It's literally the most normal name, Violet. When Zayden and Violet get together for the first time, it seems to me like it takes, well, it literally took like 45 minutes of reading on 1.25 speed, which I can only imagine is like 20 pages. Like, just get to it. Quit saying that you're going to lose control and you can't keep it together when she's around, and just do something. There was another thing, so much telling and so little showing. We heard from Zayden so much how he's not good for her and he's never going to fall for her, and I'm so sick of hearing that phrase, fall for her. I'm falling for you. Sick of it. Can you tell? Where I think inherently the Zayden character is someone who would not be as vocal about his desires or attraction or whatever. And then when he needed to say something that was like actually important, he wouldn't. And so I just got sick of it. I was like, can we please just get on with it? One thing Rebecca Yarros is good at is writing dialogue, which personally I'm not good at. I'm much better about like narration and scenery. But it got to the point in the climax of the book. I was like, what are we fighting for? Because I'm so concerned with who's wyvern and who's dragon and what's slashing and blood spraying from everywhere that I have no idea how we got here. I have no idea where we're going. I have no idea what the goal is. Fight scenes were similar to that. The gauntlet was a little too dragged out. Just a little lost. Just a little unsure of what was going on. That time could have been dedicated to her having a legitimate conversation with Liam instead of being like, "Ugh, I can't believe you're following me around. I don't need you to protect me." And then her 2 seconds later being like, "Everyone's out to kill me." Ah, like, sick of it. I'm sick of it. Very pick me, very 2014, which is fine. I just didn't like it. I didn't care for it. I have friends who do care for it. I personally do not care for it. Yeah, like just commit to being a dark romance, or commit to being an action adventure mythology book, fantasy book with some romance. It was just all over the place. Sorry, I thought I was gonna die. I might die. Yikes, Aroni! Anyway, I just felt like it was a little bit all over the place and couldn't commit to being one thing. Violet's so caught up about how she's weak, but then is afraid to grow, or no one around her will let her grow, which isn't her fault, but it's super annoying. Also, everyone's focused on her. Everyone only cares about her and nothing else. Oh, another pet peeve. She was literally about to get murdered several times, and then when her attempted murderers were going to be punished for their crimes, she's like, "No, you shouldn't do it. They're people too. Like, grow a backbone. I know your knees are weak, but what about your backbone? Huh? Is that underdeveloped also? Because I'm sick of your pushoverness." Which again, this is just me. This is me ranting with a side of literary criticism. Which this isn't a book that's meant to be critiqued. This isn't a book that's meant to be analyzed. They're not going to teach it in schools in 50 years unless it's to be like, look at this crazy trend in literature we had where our main characters were a small disenfranchised brunette woman who dates a 6'5" shadow wielding tattooed god of a man. That's all we're going to learn from this. Not like, oh my gosh, look at this writing style. Look at how they develop these worlds and these characters. Um, Fourth Wing is not going to be one of those books. So it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be grilled, but that I can't help it. It's in my nature. I literally paid tens of thousands of dollars for someone to teach me how to do this. I'm not gonna not do it. One last thing that is just like a silly little thing that I need to get off my chest. A lot of the tension was manufactured. I think there's an issue with getting the main guy and the main girl together in the first book because then like where else do they have to go? By the end of the first book, obviously there was like some broken trust or whatever, which also like she was super mad at him, but then was also immediately ready to abandon her country and betray everything that she knew. But she can't forgive a guy for like protecting his own state secrets. Please. But there's this their dragons are mated. Of course, she has two dragons because she's so special, and one of the dragons is the biggest dragon that's ever dragoned, and he's mated to the dragon of the guy that she likes, who's also her sworn enemy, allegedly. They're enemies to lovers for literally 2 sentences, and then she's like, "Nope, I want to climb him like a tree." And then their whole thing is, "Oh, we can't be together because our dragons are mated pairs, a mated pair." Isn't that the most convenient excuse to be together? Maybe if you cared a little bit more about the fact that her mom killed your dad and your dad killed her brother, then you could be like, oh, actually, I have a deep rooted hatred against you because you betrayed my family. But then I kind of start to like you over the course of a book or two. And then also, like, I understand, there's more conflict with him keeping his secrets and her, having more of an issue of betraying her life and her family. But no, the fact that they have to be together because their dragons have to be together is the reason that they can't be together. You're kidding me. That would be the most. I'd be like, oh, dang. Oh no, we can't be separated for more than 3 days. What a bummer. Guess we should have sex more often. Again, this isn't a book that should be ripped apart, but also like bare minimum. The bare minimum. If you're gonna say she's in a dressing gown, mean a robe and not a nightgown. Because a dressing gown has sleeves, not dainty black lace straps, ma'am. I'm reading the second book because I'm bumming it off a friend, but the foolishness is truly laughable. I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead. Maybe one of these days I'll write like a literary analysis and make that into a video, but this is a lot more fun. So thank you for coming back. Thanks for bearing with me in my hiatus. My life's about to get more crazy, but that means that I'm gonna take on all these projects. I'm trying to read more books. I'm obviously rereading Throne of Glass. I want to do a video about that. And I had a ton of fun in IKEA today, so we'll probably be back here. And let me know your thoughts about it. Let me know if I'm missing something. I would love to miss something about this. I would love to love it. I think studying English in college kind of ruined me for this. I take it a little too seriously. No, I'm not gonna, because you could be a better writer. Never mind. Being an English major definitely kind of ruined me, but I'm having fun, and it might not look like your fun, but who cares?